Here we're going to talk about what the Michigan Bar Exam is so that you know what you're getting yourself into when you sign up to take the Michigan Bar Exam. The Michigan Bar Exam is a 2-day exam, and it's offered on the last Tuesday and Wednesday in February and in July. Most first-time takers will take the July Bar Exam. It's 2 days, so the first day is the essay day, and you'll have 15 essay questions to answer. On the essay day, you're going to be applying Michigan law, and the second day is the multiple choice portion of the bar exam. This is called the multi-state bar exam, or the MBE for short, and you'll have 200 multiple choice questions to answer on this day. On this day, you apply national law or majority law. You're not applying Michigan law. The essay portion of the bar exam is written by 5 members of the Michigan Board of Law Examiners. Why does this matter? This matters because each of these 5 members, who is writing 3 questions each, are not professors. So they're not law school professors, rather they're practicing attorneys and judges. So some issues that your professors might have loved in law school, okay, like Erie, for example, or the rule against perpetuities, don't really show up that much on the essay portion of the Michigan Bar Exam. Why not? Because nobody besides law school professors likes those issues, okay? So these practicing attorneys and judges kind of stay away from some of those trickier topics that might be more heavily tested in law school, and they tend to test other things. The multiple choice portion of the bar exam is drafted by the National Conference of Bar Examiners, or NCBE for short, and you'll have to apply majority law for this. These questions are really well written, they're vetted out, they go through multiple stages before they're actually used on your exam. So they're going to be good questions, and you're going to be applying majority law, not Michigan law, to these questions. The bar exam is scored on a 200-point scale. So the MBE is scored on a 200-point scale, and the essay portion is scored on a 200-point scale. And basically, the board will add those scores together and divide them by 2 and see if you get a passing score of 135. So it doesn't really matter how everything's scaled, and in fact, none of that information is even released. So I'm not going to talk about that in depth. But what I am going to say is you want to aim for about a 135 on the essay portion and about a 135 on the multiple choice portion. And if you get those on both portions, then you'll pass the bar exam with a score of 135. One important note is that you do not need a minimum score on either portion of the bar exam. So you can play to your strengths. I had a student who came to me about a month before the bar exam. She had taken it before. She scored low on the multiple choice portion, like in the 5th percentile. She was just not where she needed to be. But she did well on the essays, and I could tell she was a good writer. So I said, look, we got a month. We're not going to get your multiple choice score up to passing. We're just not. It's not going to happen. So let's focus on the essays. You won't ignore the MBE, but we're going to focus on the essays and really try to make that your super strength so that you score high on the essays, and that'll make up for a lower MBE score. And it was kind of risky, but she didn't really have a choice if she wanted to take that bar exam. So we worked a lot on the essay portion, and she ended up scoring really high on the essays and low on the MBE, although she did raise her score about 10 points. And she ended up passing the bar exam with a 135 on the dot, which is great because guess what? Nobody cares what your bar exam score is. They just care if you pass the bar exam when you go to practice law. Okay, so let's talk about the essay day in a little more detail. The essay portion of the exam tests Michigan law. There are 15 essay questions total, so you're going to have 9 in the morning, then you're going to have a lunch break that's about an hour and a half, and you'll have 6 essay questions in the afternoon. So 3 hours of testing in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon. The essay portion is scored on a 1 to 10 scale. If you get a score of 7, that's considered passing for the Michigan bar exam. So they'll tell you in your bar exam course to aim for at least a score of 7, and then that's a passing score. In reality, in recent years, due to the curve that the Michigan Board of Law Examiners is using to scale these exams, if you get a score less than 7, you can still pass the exam. In fact, usually between about a 6.2 and a 6.8 is considered passing. So don't feel bad if you're averaging a little less than 7. You can still pull off a 135 on the essay portion of the bar exam. In fact, if you get all 7s, you'll probably score between a 140 and a 150 on the essay portion, just depending on the scale that's used that administration. Lastly, I had forgotten to mention this. If you want to answer all questions on time, which you do, you want to allocate about 20 minutes per question. If you spend about 20 minutes per question, assuming you don't have any accommodations that give you extended time, then you will pass the bar. You won't necessarily pass the bar exam, but at least you'll complete the bar exam on time and hopefully pass it. All right, you can see on the Michigan Bar Exam question frequency chart the subjects that are tested and the years that these subjects have been tested. So all subjects are listed on the left-hand side, and then the years are listed on the top of the page, so you can tell which subjects are highly tested. We'll be going over this in more detail in just a bit. I just want to show you the chart so that you're aware of what's tested on the essay portion of the bar exam. Okay, next, the multiple choice portion, or the MBE portion of the bar exam. The MBE is a national test, so majority law is applied. You're not applying Michigan law on this exam. The MBE consists of 6 hours of multiple choice, so you're going to have 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon. There's 200 questions total, so you'll have 100 in the morning and 100 in the afternoon. There are 175 scored questions and 25 test questions. Okay, why does this matter? This matters because there's going to be 25 questions that you get to, and you're going to say, this test is something I haven't seen before. This test is a really recent case. I thought they didn't do that. This test is something very unusual. It's either written in a weird way or the answer choices are odd. Chances are it's probably a test question. That means it's not scored. They're just using it to see if it's a good enough question to actually become a real scored question in future bar exams. If you think you get a test question, still answer it because you don't know for sure that it's a test question. But don't worry about it so much. Some people worry so much about these really weird questions that probably don't even matter, count toward their score. So it really doesn't matter if they got it right or wrong. 7 subjects are tested on the MBE. So we have civil procedure, constitutional law, contracts and sales, criminal law and procedure, real property evidence, and torts. These overlap a lot with the classes that you probably took your first year of law school, with the exception of evidence and criminal procedure. Some people don't take sales, and some law schools don't have real property their first year, which is surprising to some. So each of these subjects is worth 1/7 of your score. There's going to be 25 scored questions on each. So they're all equally important. And as you can see, if you look at the essay frequency chart, these subjects, which appear evenly on the MBE, are also really heavily tested on the essay portion. For example, almost every bar exam is going to have a con law question, evidence, crim law, crim pro, real property. They don't always have torts. Sometimes no fault is tested in place of torts, and sales is not frequently tested, but you will see contracts. Okay, so it's important to learn these subjects not only to maximize your score on the MBE, but also to maximize your score on the essay portion of the bar exam. So that's an overview of what the MBE looks like. I want to just say one last thing. If you score about a 65% on the MBE, that's considered passing. So if you think about it, you don't really need to do great on the bar exam in order to pass the Michigan bar exam. You really need about a D, okay? If you get about a 6.2 to 6.8, but we can round up to 7 on the essays, that will give you a passing score. If you get about a 65% on the MBE, that will give you a passing score. So you really need like a solid D to pass the bar exam. So don't stress out if you're not getting your 90% or whatever your standard is for yourself, because that is not the standard to pass the bar exam. If you're getting about 65% on both portions, then that's a passing score. If you score higher, great, because then you're going to have a cushion, and if you happen to have a bad day or get a weird exam, or you happen to answer or get questions on topics you haven't really studied that closely, you can still pass the bar exam. So you want to aim higher for a 65%, but if you get a 65%, you'll be passing the exam. So that's an overview of the Michigan bar exam. Hopefully this helps clarify what each portion tests, and we'll get right into how to answer an essay question on the Michigan bar exam.